Look at your mates, driving fine cars, Benz. You can't even afford common bicycle and you call yourself a man?
Should I kill myself?
Please help my life. I will do anything to have money.
Don't worry. I will take you to one juju priest.
Your friend will sleep inside a coffin for 3 days, and I will give him a charm to strike the express road.
Today, this road will drink blood. As I strike this road, let the spirits open my gates of wealth.
Have you ever seen a man who makes a fortune selling coffins? Not just any coffins, but coffins soaked in mystery, pain, and blood money. Tayo was a struggling carpenter. His tiny workshop was empty. No customers, no work, and barely enough to feed himself, his wife, and their 2 children. At home, his life was no better. His wife, Adisuwa, constantly rained insults on him. "Look at your mates," she shouted, "driving fine cars, Benz. You can't even afford common bicycle, and you call yourself a man?" Dayo was tired of poverty, of insults, of being seen as a failure. He often sat by the roadside, lost in thought, hoping for a miracle. One fateful afternoon, a shiny Benz screeched to a halt near him. It was Timmy, an old schoolmate, sharp dresser, gold chain, looking like success itself. "Timmy," Dayo called out, surprised. They exchanged greetings, but Timmy couldn't hide his shock. He looked Dayo up and down. "You, Dayo? One of the smartest in school. Why are you like this? You look like life has dealt with you badly." Dayo sighed heavily. "My brother, I'm tired. Just help my life. I'm ready for anything." Timmy grinned with his shiny gold necklace. "You know me, I know they carry last. Even if money dey inside lion mouth, I go collect am. Let's meet here tomorrow if you are serious." Dayo nodded, desperate. As Timmy zoomed off in his Benz, Dayo's heart pounded. He had no idea that his road to riches would be paved with death and coffins. The following morning, Dayo arrived early at the same roadside spot, waiting anxiously. Timmy soon joined him, this time on foot. "Where's your car?" Dayo asked, puzzled. Timmy waved it off. "I dropped it at the car wash. Let's talk." Without wasting time, Timmy leaned closer. "Today, I'll take you to the Baba who made me who I am. That man changed my life. He has the key to everything: wealth, power, success. But you must be ready to do anything he says. No fear." Dayo hesitated for a moment, but his desperation gave him courage. He nodded. "I'm ready." They set off. After a long, silent ride on a motorbike through a dusty, lonely path, they reached a shrine hidden deep in the bush. The air was heavy. The smell of incense and strange herbs filled Dayo's nose. Timmy bowed before the Baba and spoke. "Great one, this is my friend, Dayo. He's tired of poverty. I want him to be rich by any means." The Baba's eyes glowed. His body twitched. He looked at Dayo closely and asked in a deep voice, "You want money? Are you man enough to take riches from the lion's den?" Dayo swallowed hard, fear gripping his chest. "Yes, Papa, I'm ready." The Baba chuckled, then suddenly became serious. He pointed at Dayo. "Listen well. You will sleep inside a coffin in this shrine for 3 days. If you survive, wealth will follow you. I will give you charms, secrets that will make you never lack again." Dayo's eyes widened. "Sleep in a coffin for 3 days? What if I die inside? How will I enjoy the money?" The Baba let out a loud laugh. "You're still a child. You will never understand." Timmy broke the tension and bowed again. "Baba, don't be angry. He's ready. He will do it." Dayo stood there, trembling. His mind raced. But after all, what did he have to lose? "If I perish, I perish," he whispered to himself. With a heavy sigh, he nodded and surrendered. Baba looked at him and said, "Follow me." Inside the inner chamber of the shrine, a coffin lay on the ground, decorated with cowries, surrounded by red candles, all burning brightly. Dio's heart pounded. Without a word, he stepped in, and the coffin magically closed by itself. Baba laughed and went outside. He turned to Timmy and said, "The work has begun. It will only take 3 days." 3 days passed. Baba stepped into his inner chamber and slowly opened the coffin. Dio lay inside, lifeless, eyes shut, motionless. With a low chant, Baba took a small calabash and magically sprinkled water over Dio's face. Suddenly, Dio jolted up, sitting upright in the coffin, gasping. Baba let out a loud laugh. "You are now a complete man," he said in a deep tone. "Wealth shall follow you. Money that shakes the ground will become your friend. But to unlock this, you must do exactly as I say." He held out a charm inside a small calabash. "First, every week wrap this charm in black cloth. At midnight, go to the busiest road you know. Strike the road 3 times. Death will open your way and your business will rise. Second, buy sweets. Bless them with this charm. Give them to your children to share, but they must not eat any. No other hand must touch this charm, or the consequences will be heavy. Now, rise, my son. It's your time to shine." Dio, still weak and hungry, nodded. "Thank you, Baba. When the money flows, I'll return to pay homage." He stepped out of the coffin and hurried on. When Dio got home, Adesua flew into rage. "You useless man. Where have you been? What is in that bag? Your children haven't eaten for days. You left us like animals. You're not a husband. You're not a father. Shameless creature." Dio said nothing. He walked past her, entered his room, and sat in silence, waiting for midnight. Midnight arrived. Dio crept out of his house, holding the charm wrapped in black cloth. He ran far, heart pounding, to a lonely stretch of road known to be busy during the day. But now it was dead silent. In the middle of the road, he squatted, took a deep breath, and struck the ground with the charm. Once, twice, thrice. A sudden gust of wind blew across the road. Fear gripped him. He stood up quickly and hurried home, his heart racing. By morning, loud screams echoed outside. People were wailing, running about. Dio stepped out to see what had happened. 2 long buses had collided on the road. Dio struck with his charm. Everyone inside dead. Chaos ruled the streets. Then a neighbor shouted, "Where is Dio the carpenter? We need coffins, many coffins. Money is not a problem." Dio stood frozen. At first, his legs trembled. Then he paused, calculated, and slowly a smile crept across his face. Without a word, he ran to his workshop, ready to begin his first job on the path to bloodstained riches. Dio crafted 5 emergency coffins that day, and for the first time in years, real cash filled his hands. As word spread, people came from far and near, desperate to buy coffins from him. The dead were many, and Dio's workshop became the busiest place in town. One evening, he returned home with bundles of cash on the table. His wife's eyes widened. "Where did you get all this money?" she asked, stunned. Dio simply replied, "From my sales." She chuckled sweetly. "Oh, darling, I always knew you were a hardworking man. That's why I've stood by you all this while." Dio looked at her in disbelief. Was this not the same woman who called him a failure, a disgrace? Later that evening, Dio called his 2 children. He handed them a packet of sweets. "Share this with your friends," he said. "But promise me, you mustn't taste even one." The children nodded eagerly and ran off to play. From that moment, Dio's coffin business exploded. Not a day passed without people knocking at his door for coffins. Small ones, large ones, rich and poor, all the same. His wealth grew rapidly. He built a fine house, bought a shiny car, and even hired workers to mass produce coffins in different parts of town. He had become a man of means, but his heart was never at peace. Week by week, he performed his midnight ritual on the road. And as for the sweets, he made sure his children always had enough to share. The children in the neighborhood always fight each other after collecting sweets from Dio's children, not knowing they are inviting the spirits of death to their homes. Dio's wife, Adesua, now dripping in wealth, became pompous beyond reason. She strutted about the house, head held high, barking orders at her newly hired maids. Her days were now simple: eat, sleep, wake up to free money. Yet, no amount of riches seemed enough for her. She constantly demanded more from Dio, reminding him, "What's yours is mine, and I deserve even more." Dio had had enough of her endless wants, but he didn't stop. He still showered her with gifts and cash to keep the peace. One fateful morning, Adesua demanded money again. Dio sighed and replied, "Wait till I return from town. I'll collect money from the week's coffin sales." But Adesua wasn't having it. The moment Dio stepped out, she stormed into his inner chamber, her eyes burning with greed. She ransacked the room, pulling drawers, tossing clothes, and then, in the wardrobe, she found it. Wads of cash, bundled tightly. But something else caught her eye. A small, dusty calabash with black cloth tied with cowries. Adesua froze. Her hands trembled. She had found Dio's premium charm, the source of their mysterious wealth. Her mouth opened in shock. What? What is this? Just as Adesua lifted the calabash containing Dio's charm, she trembled and her hand slipped. Crash! The calabash hit the floor and shattered into pieces. In that moment, the air turned cold. A strange force like smoke crept around her and entered her mouth. Adesua's eyes widened in fear as she let out a sharp scream before collapsing to the floor. Not far off, Dio's two children heard the scream and ran inside. "Mommy?" the eldest called out. They found her lying still on the floor. To them, she was simply asleep. But something else caught their eye. A strange object glowing faintly beside her. The eldest said, "Look, what's that thing?" He picked it up. His younger brother, thinking it was a toy, grabbed it from him playfully. They both laughed, but the laughter didn't last. In mere seconds, they dropped to the floor, lifeless. Adesua, her greed now silenced, her children, innocent yet doomed. All three lay cold inside Dio's inner chamber, the place where greed met its final price. That evening, Dio returned home with heavy bags of cash from his booming coffin business. He stepped into his mansion feeling on top of the world. As usual, he called out loudly, "Daddy is ill!" expecting his children to rush into his arms and Adesuwa's voice to echo from somewhere in the house. But this time, silence. No laughter, no noise. Only the maids were around. Confused, he asked one of them, "Where's your madam and the children?" The maid replied, "Oga, since afternoon they entered inside and haven't come out." Dio's heart skipped. Something wasn't right. He rushed to the bedroom. Nothing. He called Adesuwa's name again and again. No response. Panic rising, he dashed to his inner chamber, the one no one dared to enter. There, lying lifeless on the floor, was Adesua and the children, cold, still, gone. Beside them, the shattered calabash, the same one Baba warned him no one must ever touch. Dio stood frozen. His world came crashing down in that moment. He wanted to scream, to weep, but instead, he stormed out and told all the maids to leave immediately. He shoved wads of cash into their hands and watched them disappear into the night. Alone, shaken, and broken, Dio drove straight to Baba's shrine. He pleaded, begged, knelt before the juju man. "Baba, help me. My family is dead. Please bring them back." But Baba only shook his head slowly and said, "It's too late. Nothing can be done." Dio collapsed to the ground. His wealth couldn't save them. His charm had claimed everything. That same night, he hurriedly carried the bodies of his wife and children into his car along with a digger and shovel. He drove far into a thick bush, dug a shallow grave, and, with trembling hands, buried them one by one. The only sound that night was the rustling of leaves and Dio's heavy breath. He returned home just before dawn, dropped to the floor of his empty house, and cried like a child. After burying his wife and children, Dio sat alone in his mansion, thinking deeply. How would he explain their disappearance? What would he tell people? Then he shook his head and said to himself, After all, I have money. Who will question me? He rehearsed his lie over and over. They traveled for holiday. Yes, far away. That was the line he would tell anyone who asked. He planned to say it until he completes his second mansion and quietly move in. But something kept bothering him. The charm. Now that others had touched it, would it still work? Could he still use it to perform his ritual? Would it betray him? Would it kill him? Fear gripped Dio. For the first time in his life, money didn't give him peace. He avoided the charm. For 2 weeks, he didn't perform the usual midnight road strike. He sat at his workshop daily, lost in thought, staring blankly at the coffins. His workers noticed his strange behavior, but nobody dared to speak. Then, something strange happened. People started rushing into the workshop to buy coffins, but only Dio could see them. Bring me one adult-sized coffin, one man said. Dio rushed to attend to him, but his workers looked confused. Oga, who are you talking to? Can't you see this man? Dio shouted, pointing. But the workers saw nothing. Before they could speak again, one coffin lifted into the air by itself and moved out of the shop, as if carried by an invisible person. Fear spread through the workshop. His boys ran outside. One of them shouted, Oga, abeg, which kind juju be this? Coffin dey fly, and we no see who carry am. Dio's head spun. This can't be happening. Before he could make sense of it, he saw another figure enter the shop. A familiar woman. She wore a white dress. It was Adizuwa. Her eyes were empty, her face pale. She stared at Dio and said, My husband, I want to buy 3 coffins. Dio froze. His mouth opened, but no word came out. Adesua continued, 1 for me, and the remaining 2 for our sons. Dio's legs failed him. He collapsed to the floor. The charm had opened the door, and the dead were now his customers. Dio stood and ran from his workshop in fear, his heart pounding. As he reached his mansion, ghostly figures appeared from every corner, rushing at him, shouting, I want to buy coffin. Sell me my coffin. How much is your coffin? He screamed in horror and bolted out of the house into the street. But it got worse. On the road, he could no longer tell who was real and who was a ghost. His eyes widened in terror. His head swelled with confusion as he went on his knees. He shouted, Leave me alone. Go away. I don't want your money again. Then he cried out loud, I know I killed you all. I used charms. I gave sweets to your children. I am the cause. But please, let me be. Dio ran mad, tearing off his clothes and dancing naked in the street, chanting repeatedly, Come and buy your coffin. Come and buy your coffin. Ooh! Children ran after him singing, Come and buy your coffin. While he danced, people in the town were shocked. He became a nuisance, shouting at the air, flinching from invisible hands, whipping him. Spirits no one could see tormented him night and day. Finally, the community chained him to a tree to stop his madness. But death refused to come. He remained chained, suffering, screaming, begging to die. But he would never find rest. To what extent would you go for blood money?
This is what I brought upon myself and my family, all for blood money. If this story moved you, please subscribe.